Thank you. Our keynote speaker this morning is Staff Sergeant Michael Laleman. Staff Sergeant Laleman has been deployed 7 times. Is that correct? That's amazing. Let's give him a hand. On his chest. I'm not going to go through them all. The one that stands out to me personally is his combat infantry badge, because I earned mine in 1951 in the mountains of Korea. Sergeant Laleman.
Before I get started, can everyone hear me all right? Before I get started, I'd like to say thanks to a couple people. I'd like to thank the VFW and especially Bob Hoover for inviting me out here to do this. I'd also like to thank all my family members that are here. Without you guys, I couldn't do my job. I couldn't go overseas and accomplish my mission and not have to worry about what's going on back here. So thank you. Last year, I was talking with a friend of mine about what Memorial Day really means. Before I get much further, let me give you a little background on her. She was born and raised just like any other Southern girl in Georgia. She met a young Army lieutenant, and at the age of 19, she got engaged. Soon after, her fiance got sent on his first deployment, where he was shot and killed in line of duty. She never got a chance to put on that white dress, walk down the aisle, and say I do. She never got a chance to look into his eyes again. She never got a chance to start that family that we talked about. Now this all came into play during our conversation when she said she hated Memorial Day. She hated it when people would say Happy Memorial Day to her. Now that really caught me off guard. I wasn't sure how to respond to a statement like that. So I asked her, why? Why would you say that? She simply said, because I live it every day, and for me, it's not a happy day. So I told her, Memorial Day isn't for people like you and me, who live with the memory of the fallen every day, whose memories are forever ingrained in our thoughts, whose reminders we walk by every day. This day that we so proudly call Memorial Day, people all over America take the time to remember the men and women who gave their lives so that we can have our freedom. So for me, I always smile when I hear Happy Memorial Day, because I know that these names that I wear around my wrist, those names that hang on the wall at work or are carved in memorials all across this nation, are not forgotten. And for this day, they are not just names. They are the sons and daughters of this country that made the ultimate sacrifice so we can have the freedom we have today. She told me she's never thought about it like that, and it will never be easy to hear Happy Memorial Day, but that she had a new way to look at it. Losing a friend or a loved one is never an easy thing to experience. It never gets any easier. And in fact, if anything, it grows harder as the bond between two individuals grows stronger. But the potential for the loss of a loved one is a risk and a fact of life for thousands of military families every day. Former President Ronald Reagan once said in a speech, "There is no argument between the choice between peace and war. But there's only one guarantee where you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender." I live my life by a creed, and that creed states surrender is not a Ranger word. Well, I also believe that surrender should not be an American word. 12 years ago, we were attacked by an enemy that had no fear or willingness to give up. This enemy was willing to kill themselves in hopes of hurting us or what America stands for. 2 years ago, we finally brought justice to that leader of that enemy. With bin Laden's demise, people began to say, this war's over. Bring the troops home. Continued fighting isn't worth it. Unfortunately, many people don't realize that America still has enemies out there. And by turning our back on this dangerous problem, it will not make it go away. Let me ask you this. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did that first start? Should the men on Bunker Hill have laid down their guns? Should the Alamo have been forgotten? Should we have bowed down to Hitler? Or should we step back and let the terrorists spread their injustice around the world? If you ask any 1,000 men and women in uniform today, is all this really worth laying down your life? I promise you their answer will always be yes. There are still many people out there who wish to do great harm to us just because we are Americans. They want to see us fail. They want to see us suffer. But this is the time where we need to stand up before our flag and make it clear. We will not let them. We will not surrender. We will continue to pursue them wherever they may try to hide. We will continue to take the fight to them and not allow them to have the chance to repeat September 11th or any other day in which our country was attacked. As a soldier, people often ask me what it's like overseas. Everything from the day-to-day life to combat experiences. For me, every deployment has been a new experience. Not a single one has been the same as the last. My first deployment was to Iraq in 2007, and things were not what I expected. For starters, I had a night shift. I had to wake up as the sun was going down, and I had to go to bed as the sun was coming up. Breakfast was my dinner, and dinner was my breakfast. Everything normal was flipped for me. On this deployment, I was a private. Things were relatively easy. I just had to be at the right place, the right time, with the right gear. Each day, my squad leader would walk in and tell us what we had accomplished for that night. But there was never truly a free moment, because we were on call. No matter what time of day it was, we'd get the word, and we'd have to put our gear on and be out the gate in a matter of minutes. On this 90-day deployment, I went on over 100 missions. My second deployment in 2008 was to Afghanistan. This experience was quite different from the one I had in Iraq. While I didn't participate in as many missions, the terrain was difficult to maneuver, and we had frequent contact with the enemy. It was also an adjustment to get used to the higher altitudes, although I did come back in great shape because of it. On this most recent deployment to Afghanistan this past winter, I held a command and control job. So my schedule revolved around my missions that I was in charge of planning and executing, so it was quite difficult. On days I had missions, I would get up at the crack of dawn, finalize all my details, ensure I had the right people in the right place, the right gear, and the right support. While the mission was underway, I'd have to make changes on the ground, send reports up to the commanders, until the mission was complete. Of course, when I got back, my work wasn't over. I was responsible for sending all post-mission products up to the commanders. And of course, once that mission was over, the cycle would start all over again, because my next mission could come at a moment's notice. Now for the big question about war, and what it's like to be in combat or in a firefight. I find it hard to explain that one, because it's something you have to experience firsthand to fully understand the feelings. The first firefight I was in, it didn't last very long. It was over before I knew it. The military trained us how to react in any situation without having to really think and to work quickly to eliminate the enemy. The Army refers to this as a battle drill. A battle drill is a collective action rapidly executed without applying a deliberate decision-making process. In other words, combat and stress become second nature to us. In these situations, it is the responsibility of the leader to quickly assess the situation once the initial action is over. During this quick pause, we call it a tactical pause, the leader must assess the size of his element, his enemy's element, what the terrain offers, denies, and what is the best way to proceed while best protecting his forces. Believe me when I say this, these decisions, including how to best proceed, will happen in a matter of seconds. I was directly involved in such a quick break-in situation a few years ago. On this particular night, we were using the helicopters to infill to our desired destination. Due to the extreme terrain of Afghanistan, we were forced to use a small landing zone where only 2 helicopters could land at one time. As the first helicopters were landing, they started to receive accurate AK-47 and machine gun fire from the nearby wooded area. Immediately, they returned fire and the helicopters exited the area. They then called for fire support from a fixed-wing gunship overhead. Once cleared to engage, the gunship started to deliver devastating, accurate fire on any known and likely targets. Now we began to make our descent. Using the fire from the gunship as cover, we landed, and the AK fire began to pick up again and was directed right towards us. We quickly exited and ran to a nearby stone wall. At that moment, behind that stone wall, that's the moment I was talking about where you pause. You take in everything that's going on, communicate with everyone around you, and come up with your best plan of action. As we cleared through the wooded area, we continued to be engaged by combatants. At the end of this clearing, we tallied up everything, and 11 enemy combatants were eliminated. And not a single one of us was wounded. I wish I could say that for every mission, where we eliminated the enemy and everyone came back home, but I can't. And that is the reason we have Memorial Day. I know today has become a holiday for some. People out there who think this weekend is only about the barbecues, a day on the golf course, or a long weekend on the beach. But I ask you, as you go about your day-to-day business, to please remember, there are men and women out there right now in harm's way, defending America from her enemies. And some of these young men and women will make the ultimate sacrifice. So please, take the time on this Memorial Day and pay respects to the name of our fallen, so they will never be forgotten. Thank you.